Guys, hello and welcome to episode 4 of the Renegade podcast. Thank you very much to everybody that has tuned in so far. The last couple of episodes, we've had a great response, especially from last week with the announcement of the Ireland's Strongest Man events. Dave, when do you think we're going to see the specifics and the weights for these being announced? Is this going to happen this week or next week? Or
This week, I was working on them today, so I've just got another couple of eyes looking at them just to make sure I haven't got anything incorrectly calculated. But that's what I'm hoping, so we can release the weights and everything else that would give all the information everybody needs about the events this week.
Happy days, that's great. So as I say, guys, thanks everybody that's tuned in. If you're watching this, your first time watching, please subscribe, please send it to your friends, please drop us a comment, a like, a share, any support is welcome. The next event we have with Renegade, June the 6th, we've got Ireland's Strongest Junior, and we have the first round of the Renegade Super Series. Chris, what can we expect on June the 6th, events-wise and lineup-wise?
It's going to be a busy day, with the two shows sort of amalgamated into the one. Set up and all, the way the gym's going to be laid up, it's going to look pretty smart. There is loads of space in my place. Obviously, we're running head-to-heads each time. So, like, the flow of it and all should go well. Plenty of room for the crowd and all the rest of it. Events-wise are the same over the Junior Irelands and the Renegade New Blood. So off the top of my head, there's Husafelt Curry for distance, sandball for reps, the shoulder, your press medley, which is 2 reps on each implement, log, axle, and then barbell. Deadlift, 4 reps, and the last one's farmers, and then yoke. So all your pretty standard. Well, I guess why these events sort of been picked is because they're standard. You can train these in your most strongman gyms anyway. Like, you're going to have a sandbag there. You're going to have, your deadlift setup, your farmers and all. So I think that's why for juniors and first timers we tried to keep it that way. But it'll be a big buzz of a day. Like, the lineup in both is pretty well stacked in both competitions. I wasn't sure how the juniors was going to go for a while, and then it sort of took off. And then
just looking at the junior lineup, sorry to interrupt you, Chris, there's 16 athletes entered for juniors. So as far as I know, anyway, someone could correct me if I'm wrong, I got the biggest junior lineup I've ever seen at an Irish show. I have never seen a show with so many juniors, and I'm just looking at some of the names here. Some really good juniors coming.
Yeah, it's going to be a tight lineup. It's going to be, I think that the men's under 100 kilo category is probably the most stacked category. But there's a lot of names as well in it that, because probably of the age group, there's a lot of names in it I don't know and I haven't heard before, which is good, but it's also scary for them guys out there that are maybe expecting the first place and you're a wee bit unsure of who some of these people are. But I guess that's the value of the junior sports, I
think it's same as a beginner. I suppose as a beginner, there's going to be nobody with like a rep. There's a couple of juniors there who do have somewhat of a reputation. Luke, for example, who trains with me, being that guy, I know I would much rather be the guy that nobody knows about. Because when you come and you've already won, Luke's won 2 or 3 Ireland titles now. So there's a lot of expectation over someone that hasn't done this before. I remember seeing a quote one time in some film. It says, there's always someone you don't know about until you do. And it happened last weekend at Britain's Strongest Man and Woman, which we'll talk about in a second. So, and I think this event selection was great, as you just says. Because you see a lot of other promoters, at a lower level, and they try and make these, you see it a lot in America, you see these crazy events that number one, people can't train for, and then logistically on the day, they think they'll look good and they just end up being a disaster.
Yeah. Well, I think there was a lot of thought that went into the juniors initially, wanted it to be something that most juniors could train for that already have a decent capability and strength, but you could actually get your head down, stuck in and start training. Weight selection, I think, is right, because you have to bear in mind the age group of these people. Like, you do get freaks like Luke and stuff, you know, that excel on. Fucking even seen it with like Eddie Hall over the years, you know, at 22, 23 years of age, was just miles beyond everybody. You do get people that then what about the ones that, you know, are more, don't want to use the word normal, like, you know what I mean, but who are just strong athletes. You know, if you decide to put everything at the capability of the say the top three, but the top three still have to work. You know what I mean? Everything's for reps, everything's for speed, everything's for distance. There's no max events in it, so you still have to work. And when I've been training people both for the new blood and for the juniors, you get asked the same question, you know, how many reps do you think you would need? And it's so fucking hard to answer, because, like the deadlift, for example, you know, you could take a guess, but you could also have somebody coming in the beginner strongman who's maybe got an 10 year powerlifting career and could deadlift for Ulster, like, do you know what I mean? Yeah. And then, so like, that's where it's like unknown, and it's things with the carry and stuff like that. There, you know, I just picture some lad who's worked in a farm his whole life and could just go until he finally put him keels over, you know. So it is one of them things you can't put, like when I train an athlete, so like the Husafelt carry, you know, normally 60 meters is good in the Husafelt carry, 60 to 80, but you just didn't know. Like, there could be some lad comes along there and has farmed his whole life and he run at 80 to 100, you know, and so it's very open that way. Like, I don't think you can turn around and say, there's definitely your first place, you know, because one, you don't know who's going to show up, and two, you don't know the background that a lot of these athletes has come from.
Actually makes it very exciting, you know, having that case of the unknown. You know, we might find the next great thing here. You know, hopefully this is going to be the future of all the guys and girls that are going to come forward and you know, keep strongman on the map here in Ireland.
Yeah. It's like the event selection is good in that sense for juniors, because you've got someone like Luke, for example. And sorry to anybody else that's a junior that's really strong, because I'm sure there are a few of you there. I'm just using Luke because I just know him so well. But Luke's got like a 155, 160 log. But that doesn't necessarily mean there's someone like Cameron Grisman, Dave, that you coach, or Francis, Chris, that you coach, isn't going to dust that barbell medley with more speed and technique. I've seen Andrew Johnson, who will be competing against Luke. They're good friends, actually. They were UKs and nationals together. I've seen him in the barbell, and is very, very efficient to watch. So sometimes being smaller and more athletic might let you down on one or two events, but it's a 5 or 6 event day. So
well, that's it. Like look, you know, if it was a max log, you know, money's on Luke, but like, because it's a medley, you have 6 lifts to, you know, be refereed on. Each 6 lifts has to be perfect. If Luke makes one mistake in that, you know, that's going to cost them, because everybody's going to try to do 6 perfect reps as fast as they possibly can. Yeah. So I don't think it'd be very naive of anybody to turn around and say, you know, I'm banking on it. Like, I look, for me, in the over 100 kilos for my winner. My under 100 kilos, I'd say Francis. You know, he went to, because, you know, and again, this is why I sort of wanted to bring this junior to the gym, is because I was sort of looking around last year, and the same with the new blood, you know, and how it's expanded. But I was looking around last year, like a 90 kilo strongman who's a beginner, and not a fucking clue where to put him. There was nowhere for him to go, nowhere for him to put in. And we had to go to a chaos competition in Manchester, just to be able to sort of get a good competition and compete that was fair. Do you know what I mean? There was other junior competitions that was going on, but it was 140 kilo log for reps. It was 260 kilo deadlift for reps. You know, that's not right for a 22-year-old that's 90 kilo body weight. It's not fair. 100%. So like, both of these competitions is, in my mind, something totally new that has came to Ireland this year, because one, they're being ran to the same professionalism as the rest of the Renegade shows get run to, and two, it is actually equal and possible for everybody to train for it.
Chris, you touched on this a little bit before, but Dave, I'll ask you, because you have the most experience here, and also anybody watching. Thanks to Chris for putting the juniors. This was Chris's idea. There's a massive gap in the market here, and what Chris has just touched on before, there is another Iron Strongest junior title And in my opinion, though, it's flawed, the system that's used, because what basically happens is everybody will know who I'm talking about. Will not name the person or the promoter, but basically everybody goes into the one category, and you've got juniors then, or they're lifting like a 300 kilo car deadlift or whatever. And I know if I went to a competition like that and I came 19th out of 25, but it was the highest place in junior, you don't feel like you've won something. So here, the event selection, we talked about this briefly last week about Britain's at a higher standard. I believe the weight selection should be based on who the top 3 people are. And if the rest can't lift it, it's just they need to get stronger. I think the viewpoint for the junior category has to be different, Dave. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I totally agree with everything you said there, but I probably, from a promoter's point of view, maybe numbers have been difficult to the standard of junior that they're actually looking for. I think the difference is with what we're doing here, we're actually creating a lower entry point as well. So it's a competition that more people will be able to find accessible, obviously with the 2 weighted categories we've got in there as well. And my goal has always been, as you well know, Matthew, my goal as a promoter was always to try and create opportunity. And this is the ultimate opportunity. This is attracting young men, young women into a sport that is an unknown quantity for them, and let them have a crack at it at a professionally run show. And I'm not saying the other show isn't professionally run. I'm sure it absolutely is. But like you say, it would be like putting in a bunch of people who are, beginner level against the world's strongest man. And it's what you're saying. It could be, in effect, humiliating. Well,
there's no satisfaction. And basically,
I kind of understand where they're coming from, because obviously, when I think of a junior and you're looking at somebody that's between 18 and 23, they've got limited training time in the gym. They've got limited. That raves on again.
Sorry, mate.
They've had limited years of training, limited years of experience, probably minimal to, if any, experience in competition, and we're trying to give them an opportunity to change that. And like with Renegade, when my goal was, it was purely a beginner's show, and that's what it was in its essence before it's evolved into the monster that it's hopefully going to become now, was to give people the best possible experience. People weren't coming there expecting a pocket full of money. They were coming there expecting at best a trophy and a medal, but to have a brilliant day. And I believe we always delivered that. And that's what I would like to see happen with the juniors. And Chris, you're right. You deserve an accolade and a pat on the back for bringing this to our attention.
The thing about it is as well, there's also an element of like looking after and longevity of our juniors. When I first started off, I won Junior Ireland's Strongest Man twice, but even back then, what I had to do to lift that, or what I had to do to achieve that, and sort of what the other competitions is like now, it's like, right, you had to do a 280 kilo yoke. 19, 20-year-olds, and this is what annoyed me. I have an athlete right now that I'm trying to train for juniors, and I could get him up to them weights, but what I'd have to put his body through to be able to do that at a young age, unless he's one of these out there freaks, that are rare, what you have to put his body through to be able to achieve that, he's not going to have a longevity in the sport at all. He's going to be the same as me. He's going to be injuries. He's going to come through back problems. Are going to start hip problems.
It's like you look at rugby now, and with the way kids are brought through rugby at school, they play a softer game at school for very good reason. They don't want to ruin those children for a future career or future life. So the game is softened in various ways.
I agree.
Sorry, I was going to say, whilst we're not softening it per se, what we're actually doing is we're making it doable and accessible and safe.
I think about being accessible. I think for me, anyway, the goal this year is how people perform throughout these events for anybody watching. Because a couple of people have said it's a bit light. Other people don't think it's light at all. This year gives us as promoters data to go away next year, and because we don't know what's light or what's heavy until we see people lifting it. In terms of the opportunities we're going to produce here, we can't say too much just yet, but as promoters are working closely with Official Strongman and a couple of other promoters in England, and the plan and the goal being to make this something where we can progress people and have a Britain's Strongest Junior. And I know at the minute Lan Moorhouse does a great job in America at Worlds with the teens. And I'm not saying this is going to happen, but what I would love to see happen is if we can have the UK and Britain have the Four Nations compete, have a title for Britain's Strongest Junior, who's to say there might not be Europe's strongest junior someday or world's strongest junior? I think that's what I would love to see that anyway.
Yeah. I think it honestly is good for, you've seen, like we talk about the weight class athletes, and we're going to talk a bit more about that in a minute about Britain's. We've seen the development of the open strongman, the development of the weight class athletes, and I do think the equally the most crucial thing that needs developed is the juniors, so that juniors can turn around and sort of look the same way in powerlifting and stuff. You could turn around and be like, okay, well, I'm good here until I'm 23, and then I'll worry about taking on the big boys. Whereas up until sort of now, it has been, I want to get the Britons, I need to win Dave's Ireland, and then that's a task. Like, that's a massive. Like,
of course it is, yeah.
If a 21-year-old came and won your show, Dave, is the first thing that comes into your head not the sort of Kevin Nee thing? Do you know what I mean? Where, like, he's not going to last. Like, I wouldn't believe, if I seen a 19, 20, even 21-year-old winning Ireland's Strongest Man, now I would think that career's going to be pretty limited.
Yeah, well, I would hope not, because even at World's Strongest Man, we've got some younger men coming forward. But looking at their backgrounds and their the countries that they come from, and knowing how strength has been part of their life for a lot longer than it would have been from your average guy from the United Kingdom or Ireland, it's a very different culture towards strength and the way those guys are reared into it. So there's a lot of truth in everything you said, and I think the pathway is what's key here, and I think the pathway to do it at a staggered level, because obviously, with a 20-year-old in World's Strongest Man this year, you are always going to get these freaks falling out of the sky. You're just always going to get them. And I hope they have a really long career, and I hope they stay healthy till they're 100. You know what I mean? I don't wish anybody that way. But you're right. It does seem like an awful lot of pressure to put on a man who's effectively not fully
matured.
Fully matured.
I think that's another point to make. Not just us within Ireland. There's other promoters who've done a great job. Because when Dave, for anybody watching, got me into Strongman, and I'm sure Chris, you're the same. You had someone who wasn't Dave to give you that push. But I remember when Dave said to me about Strongman, I was like, fuck, no, because I'm small. So now there's so many weight classes. There's juniors, there's beginners. Because I do remember even when I started getting good as a 105 and seeing guys dead off like 380, 390, 400, log press the 160. My advice to anybody watching this that's a junior or a beginner is don't look at like some myself or Chris or Gavin or the guys at the top, because it's so far away. Because I remember looking, it's like, and I remember watching Peter Bremner press a 160 log, and I was like, the fuck's the point? my log at the time was like 100. So the fact we've got this pathway now to travel up, we didn't have that. There might have been 2 or 3 shows a year 10 years ago. So there's never a better time to try the sport, in my opinion. Yeah,
no, you're right, man. I remember I got similar advice years ago, probably when I was around about a junior, and I had this probably wrong attitude of always chasing. The only thing was important was sort of winning shows and stuff. And it was Stuart Murray said to me, he's like, Chris, just concentrate, and every time you go to a show, every time you go in the gym, just concentrate on beating yourself and beating what you did before and beating and just constantly bettering yourself. And then he says, one day somebody will turn around and hand you a trophy. And it was the best advice I ever got. I just locked into like constantly bettering myself. Every time I went to the competition, I tried to do better than I did the year before. And then he was right. One day you do turn around, you start randomly winning shows, and you're like, "What the fuck?"
It's great advice, and advice I gave a couple of people the weekend, which we'll talk about now in a minute. Like Gavin Bruce, for example, should have won the 105s and threw it away. And see, learning how to win a show, that's a skill in itself. And someone said, I think it was Andy McBride said that to me years ago when I won my first bodybuilding show at NABA, Dave. Actually, I think it was NABA anyway. And he says, "See, when you've won your first one, you'll keep winning them, because that's a skill in itself." But the main thing being like enjoyment. And I know over the years, you say it's a hobby, I've been obsessed. It's all I think about all day. But looking back, the World's Strongest Man, OSG last year, I came 4th. Should have came 2nd, had a disaster. But then sat and cried, whatever. But that night, me and Nikita went and had a good time. I was out with my clients, my friends. We had a great time in Texas. And it wouldn't have mattered then if I came 4th, 1st, or 40th, because you're still going home to the same life. So especially at a baseline level of being a junior and a novice or beginner, don't show up to this like it's world's strongest man, fucking punching walls and stuff. Come and have a good day. And what I always say is, see if you go to a competition and you're in full form all day and you don't perform, that's a double whammy of negativity. Where at least if you go and you have the crack with the lads there, you have a good day, maybe you come fourth, at least you have a good day's crack. Do you know what I mean? That's what I think anyway.
100%.
I'm sure, Dave, you've got plenty of stories because I know you spent a lot of time with him. But the one man in Strongman that I think had the best mentality for Strongman was Benny Magnuson. And Benny said he told me a few stories that really stuck with me. But I remember asking him what was Benny's most weirdest, funniest way he answered it. But I asked him, like, what was the pinnacle of your career? Because Benny Magnuson's strongman career, when you look over it, it was fascinating. You know, like huge career in IFSA, and then and then went into Worlds. Like, he had a massive strongman career, and he looked the same at fucking 19 years old as what he fucking does today. Like, he hasn't really aged or nothing. But I asked him, like, what was the sort of pinnacle moment in your career? And he was like, yeah. When I do world record, I lift over £1,000. And I was like, oh yeah, because there was a big rivalry between him and Bolton then, who was going to get it first. And he was like, yeah. And he says, then that night we went camping, and we hunted boar, and we killed boar, and we eat boar. And I was like, so what are you saying? Is £1,000 or the boar? He says, no, hunting that boar was awesome. And I was like, that was the highlight of his career. Like, you know what I mean? Was what he did after the £1,000 to go out.
It was kind of the build up to that point of what he did. But no, I have a few interesting stories I could tell you about Benny. Some of them not on here, but anyway. But no, he's a good fella, and he was a phenomenal person, and a good pal of mine. It was in my life a lot when my father passed away, because I was over in Harrogate, literally in and out of hospital, and he used to natter me to come and train with him and take me out for a bit of lunch and stuff like that. And I'll always remember him fondly for that, for what he did there. He's a good guy.
He actually gave me one of the biggest point of advice that I give in seminars and talks, and it's genuinely what I believe is one of the most important things in life. And he told this story about whenever he pulled the world record in the deadlift. He was like, people got so excited. They stood up, and he says 3 people fell off the balcony. They got so excited. But he says when Eddie Hall pulled his world record, he's like, nobody fell off the balcony. And he says the most important thing in life is how you make people feel. Because he says you'll always be remembered for how you feel. Doesn't matter how big your trophy cabinet is. Doesn't matter about any of that there. Your first impressions of somebody when you meet them, and how you treat them, like that you're always remembered for that. You're not remembered for anything else.
Yeah,
but he is a very inspirational man. Like.
He comes out with the most brilliant words of wisdom that are so strangely put, but make so much sense. If that
like
that
a
makes
Yoda.
Sense.
Like a giant Yoda.
Yeah, come out with something. What are you talking about? And then it's, I see what you mean. Though. It's brilliant.
I think looking back at Strongman, I wouldn't say, if people ask me who's your favourite Strongman, I always struggle, because when I get into Strongman, as I've said before, I didn't even know what it was. I just enjoyed being strong and having big muscles. But the only person that would pop to mind in terms of who I was a fanboy of was Thor. But for me, I think still to this day, the most impressive deadlift was Benny's, because it was raw. Maybe not as impressive as like the 5'10", but that's definitely top 3 of all time for me anyway, I think.
He was a phenomenal, like, when he put his mindset to something as well. I know this wasn't on the agenda today, but still, like, even when he came back to get into Strongman, and he locked in on the log pressing, very different technique than what anybody else did. Like, he would lift it to the knees, he would sit there for about 3 seconds, take a breath to the chest, wait like 3-5 seconds. Any of the rest of us, definitely me and you, Matthew, we'd have fucking passed out at this stage.
100%.
And then he'd push over 200 above his head. Do you know what I mean? And like, but he was like, and I've heard so many stories of boys training with him and all. People were saying like his deadlift sessions this last like 2 hours. It's like over 50 sets and all in his deadlift sessions and stuff. And
I have trained with him a few times, and it's scary. And also, Darren Sadler's gym in Boroughbridge, he lived in that area for quite a long time and trained in there. And Darren's told me some some of the ridiculous feats that he did in the workouts. You're totally unrecorded, but I guarantee you, if they come out of Darren's mouth, I guarantee you they're 100% real.
Moving on, lads, to the Super Series, beginner, novice, and intermediate. Again, with 28 athletes and a great blend between all the categories of males and females. And I think, again, this will set a good precedent for the rest of the comps going forward. We had a couple of questions, Dave, this week from people DMing about the categories they've entered. And one lady that springs to mind, I think her name's Becca, she had 6 or 7 weeks ago, she'd won a beginner comp. And she'd assumed she had to move up to novice. Now, I know there's a lot of other, federations who have the rules. Where does she stand in terms of if she's won a beginner comp 6 weeks ago? Can she still do our beginners, or what's the situation with that?
Has she competed before that? Is this her first season?
No, this is her first season.
Well, rightly or wrongly, and I know they're going to need a bit of sauce added to them at some stage. We wrote up some rules for this, so we try and avoid any confusion, because as well as I do, you can go to a lot of beginners, novice, intermediate shows all over the place and see the same guys competing in the same categories again and again and again. I'm not saying what's right and what's wrong here. It's just how I see it. There needs to be an element of a rule and an element of progression. So what we decided to do, and it is on the social media, it's yet to be added to the website, because remember, we're going to review all these, is it states that open athletes in their first season of Strongman only, and this is for beginners, after their first season, they may stay beginner only if they have not achieved a top 3 podium placing in a valid beginner contest. Any win or top 3 placing in a valid beginner contest means they must move to novice. So that simply says it's her first season. So absolutely she can compete, and she would be able to compete in the next one as well.
Yeah, and I suppose that the same thing would ring true if it was a novice who had won 2 shows this year, but it was their first time doing novice.
Yeah, because there's some reviews we need to look at the novice and the intermediate, because we get this crossover with age categories and things like that, where it gets a little bit confusing, because somebody that's in the mid-40s or something like that, and you're a female, there's limited shows that you can actually go and do and compete in, so it's something that does need reviewed, but we're open to it, and as I say, the rules, I wouldn't say they're a moving target, but we know we need to review them. They know there's additions to make in there, and there's other things coming, like the show that we're doing in Ballymoney. We have a Masters category in there, so the Masters category, we'll have to put the rules up for that, which is perhaps a little easier.
I'll have to add that to the website as well, Dave. I forgot about that, but I was going to mention that there, that this sort of shows what we're learning already. They're planning the second one, haven't even done the first one yet, but we're already making adjustments to the second one that we could see and understand. Right, we need a Masters category here. Again, that opens more doors for more people.
Yeah, we just want to create an opportunity, in all these categories, and another show, a good, well-run show that's going to be fun, that people can come and have a go on an even playing field. That's what's the ultimate goal. But I'd state this: anybody listening to this, if you've got any concerns or anything about rules in general, or suggestions for rules, fire them into us, because I am always open-minded. I don't think I know it all. Not quite, anyway. No, but I really don't. I'd love to hear other people's points of view, and it's always interesting to see people's take on that, because I
agree, because there's so many conflicting things when you come to these shows, and as you've just said, you've been a bit nicer about it, but I'll be honest here. See, when I go to competitions and I see the same guys doing the same shows, see if you're going to these shows and you're coming 4th, 5th, 6th all the time, and you're not really. If you're going to come and keep podium all the time, Chris. In my opinion, if you want to keep podiuming all the time, there's nothing to gain from that. To move up and give the other guys a chance. I'll be straight on this podcast. Anybody that attempts to trophy hunt, so to speak, with our federation, we will check names as time goes on. So we trust everybody to show up and be honest, as most people are. But you get the odd bad egg. So just make it fair for everybody else, because we all start somewhere.
But I think as well, we're painting them as bad eggs. And it isn't always a case of that. Look, these people sometimes don't have the opportunity to do a show that is suited for them in terms of the right level. They're not here and they're not there, and they want to compete, they want to get stuck, and they want something to train for. And we need to address those issues and make sure we can make those opportunities fairly going forward.
And I think
I
that's
just
why no bias to it because it's Renegade. But that's why I think that the Renegade rule that you can do beginner 5 times is good because as you've just said, maybe someone wins a beginner comp in February and the next comp's in April. Maybe they're not good enough. Maybe they're still good enough to win beginners again, but not good enough to be competitive at novice. So I think that's why the rule makes sense.
Also, as
just
well.
go ahead, Dave.
I was just going to say also, if you look at the events that are in Renegade Round 2, the New Blood Round 2, are completely conflicting. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
very,
yeah.
very different. Yeah. So, that can
I
change.
just looking there, if you guys want to, I'm just looking at the corner of my eye, our new idea for the first place for the New Blood show. Do you want to show it and get a bit of feedback and see what people think and sort of explain the idea of it? He's here looking at me, he's don't know what I'm talking about. For the Renegade, the first place, what do you call it that we got done?
The prize.
The thingamajig.
The thingamajig. Because I don't want to let it away if you don't want to discuss it or talk about it now.
Go ahead, Chris. You go ahead.
I don't know. Go get it. It might not be totally flat.
I don't know what he was talking about there.
I thought that was it. I thought he'd gone.
Just the way back to DJ decks.
Yeah.
Rave.
Right. So.
Oh wow.
Bappy, you gotta explain it.
Yeah. So.
I don't know if you can pick it up.
Instead of a trophy, we just thought we'd do something different and have like a cool banner. This is you'll see this. It's a very American style thing, and you'll see like basketball teams, American football teams have these banners. But I've seen a few strongmen do it in America recently, and I think it's just a nice thing. It's a little bit different than a trophy, like a cool banner to hang in your gym or fucking hang in your bedroom or hang in your mantelpiece if your wife lets you. But I just thought it was a nice touch. The juniors will still get their first strongman trophies, but I think that was really, really, really cool idea there.
Especially if you get, like, I would have hung this up while I'm talking in case the camera didn't get it the first time because you were talking, so it might pin on you. But, like, even if you get, if you do all 3 Renegade New Blood shows, like, you have the potential of winning 3 of them there to hang in your gym, which would fucking look sick. Like.
Yeah,
class. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was better than a plastic trophy for sure.
Oh, 100%. Right, so moving on, we had a great show put on by the Doyle brothers last weekend called The Invasion of the Giants. I think there was like $2.5 grand or $3 grand up for the winner, which was class, so fair play.
Well
Dean
done.
and Dillon, well done lads for organising that. I know Dean and Dillon have been in the strongman game for a long time. They're very opinionated lads. They speak their mind. I have a lot of respect for the 2 lads. They're gentlemen. They show up and support. I think if you look at 2 guys that love strongman in Ireland and promote the sport and do well, I think that them 2 guys have done a good job. And the show looked amazing, and it was fucking heavy. They invited me to it, but I couldn't make it unfortunately because it was a Britons with a big squad. But it looked an absolutely fucking class show, lads. So well done, amazing.
Yeah, I've seen a few videos of it. Seen Gillian's 390 deadlift row. Just very
wild.
impressive. Very impressive.
Makes me excited for Ireland's with the 3 lads, like Killian, Sean, and Dean, top 3, and that's fucking no joke. That show.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's 3 phenomenal athletes there, but I've only seen the bits and stuff on social media. But again, well done, lads. You've talked about running this show for a little while now, and I've heard nothing but great things about it. And the footage I've seen looks flipping awesome. So great, and we're sorry we didn't do anything to really support it more than that. We should have been up about this before it happened, really, shouldn't we? So we need to get on our A game. So apologies there, lads. We didn't plug you. Not that we've got that many people following us yet, but hopefully when we do it this next year, it'll be a game changer, as mentioned.
100%. But I think seeing people like that put on shows with money and it's heavy, it sets a good precedent for the rest of the country. Puts the pressure on you now, Dave, for August.
Yeah, no, I accept it. It's. I love to see somebody, really taking the bull by the horns. It's all right talking about it and complaining about what nobody else is doing, but actually getting off your ass and going and doing a really good show with some really good prize money with the best guys we've got here in Ireland. Fair play, you've done it, and massive respect.
Exactly, and the main talking point, I suppose, in this weekend or this week's podcast was official strongman, Britain's strongest man and woman from the weekend past. It was ran in Bolton by Unbreakable. I was there and have a lot of talking points. There's actually commentating as well. So for anybody listening, hope you can understand me. Number one, I hope number two, you enjoyed it. But we had a strong lineup from Ireland. I think the biggest lineup we've ever had from Ireland. But even still with that, so we'll go through the guys. First of all, we've got Darren McGurr in the under 90s, coached by me. Callum Gibson, also under 90, coached by Dave. Adam Beattie, under 90 as well, is that correct?
Under 80.
Under 80, sorry. And then with Linda, under 64. And the star of the show, which we'll talk more in depth about at the minute, was Jessica Andrews in the under 64s. Mm-hmm. How did your lads feel about the show, Dave? Did they enjoy it?
Well, I think I said before they went, it was a massive stepping stone for both of them. They've gone from, less than a year ago, I was trying to persuade, Callum to even have an attempt at a 250 deadlift, and he thought it was way beyond what, he pulled a 280 there on an axle. That if he didn't do anything else, that was obviously a big highlight for him. He loved the event. He thought the venue was great. He thought the expo was good. His wife was with him, and they had a great weekend. Adam, he finished, I think a whole load of them ended up finishing in 5th. And he was one of them.
He done fucking class, and like, see when he took off that shield in the yoke, I couldn't believe it.
He's lethal. He was the guy. I don't know if you saw the video I put him up of doing the Island Stone. That was Adam on the Island Stone, and he just ran with it. Honestly, he just ran with it. And I thought I was still okay doing a bit of carrying on that, but he just absolutely made me look like a total. It was brilliant at 80 kilos, and it was a bit unlucky. The log was, I think, within his grasp. From what you told me, would probably answer the question why he hesitated a little bit with it, but he nearly got it. That the mats were a wee bit soft.
I think when I was there, it's hard at them comps and people have cut weight and whatever, but the mats were spongy and the ceiling was so high. And I just thought maybe people weren't performing, but then when I seen someone like Flash, Dan Ashcroft, under 80, one of the best in the world, and then we had like Tom Owens, struggled. I think the only person that looked strong on the log was Harry Rogers. So I think I don't think that was the athletes to blame. There's nobody to blame, really.
As Harry got size 15 feet or something. But the other thing with Adam as well, he failed the deadlift, which is something he should never have done. But he felt that because the warm up, he said, was a bit of a handling. There was a lot of people, guys were warming up way before they were due to go out and pushing it, making it hard for the lads that needed to go out. So maybe a little bit of better organised warm up area would be beneficial, because I don't think he was the only one. He said he ran up after pulling a 220 straight to a 260, which was at the thick end of what he's at. You know what I mean? But he would have normally, I would have accepted 2 or 3 reps with that.
Aye, 100%. I think Callum, maybe Callum, I could be wrong here. He should be happy with his performance his first time there. He's probably looking back, a bit disheartened with some of the stuff. I personally feel, after seeing him compete and hearing about how he weighed in at like 87, fully clothed, I think personally anyway, he should be an under 80.
I agree. It's a conversation that is not unfamiliar and hasn't been unfamiliar for quite a long time, as you can imagine. But I think that was probably the awakening that he needs. And the goal is, what we're going to try to do, whether we're successful or not, but I hope we are, is to do the online qualifiers for OSG Europes for both the lads, and both of them will be under 80. That's where we're going to go for, and I think that's a bit more realistic. No, but I was very proud of them both. They held their heads up high. They always carry themselves well. They always make a good show of themselves. There's never any bad sportsmanship or anything like with them. They take what they're given and get on with it. And I hope I've instilled some of that in with them, because I always say, if there's no good making a fuss about a bad performance. You just need to get it behind you and get on with what's up next.
100%. Darren McGurr then, I had in under 90s. I coached Darren. Darren did good. There was he tripped in the shield, which cost him some points. Log as well. He was hitting the log in training, but just with the setup that day let him down. So I think he's probably disappointed. But I was like, most of his comp goals we ticked off. He put a good performance on, and then Linda, was very proud of Linda. To be fair, Linda was definitely a level above her pay grade this time, but she really wanted to go. And I think now that we talked about this last week, when you've been to a comp like that for the first time, you've got no choice but to just get better when you're exposed to that environment. So she did great. And then star of the show from Ireland. And do you want to know what? Me and Nicola picked this as being the standard performance as a female outside the podium was Jess. She came fifth. She has now got invites to Europes and Worlds, which were more than deserved. I coached Jess for a few years, and she's worked very hard. Last year, she was there at Brits, and she would tell yourself, I don't think so at all last year. You're always hard on yourself, but she felt somewhat out of place. And there's a couple of events she zeroed and didn't do well on. And the progress that was made in the last 12 months has just been was unbelievable. And it's hard when you're commentating and you've got people that you coach or people from Ireland that are competing because you can't shout at them or say anything. But it was delighted for her, and fair play for getting the Europes and Worlds invite, so well earned.
Yeah. Did she get the Worlds an invite from her win at because she didn't win the Islands, she was second in Ireland, wasn't she?
Second, I think that fell down, and then the girls. Bear in mind as well, London Jess competed in under 64s. So I'm pretty sure the top three had already got their invites to Europes and Worlds, so they fell down the ladder to the other girls then, because you had Emily Norley who won, Shannon Smith who comes second, which we have a talking point about in a minute, and then third place was Kate Connolly. So you've got three of the best females in the world there. So the under 64 class for the Irish girls going, you're competing as the best in the world. To come fifth was unbelievable. So yes, because the other girls had qualified, the ranking had just fell down. So that's how she got her invites.
Right.
So
can Adam go because he was fifth?
If the other lads have been invited already, you speak to London the same way I spoke to London. You get him sorted.
Well, that over there, I get him sorted. No. That's we'll go with the online qualifier, I think, and see how we fare up there. It'll be a better.
But apart from that, in terms of the Irish athletes, I for one am disappointed every year. This year was the best showing we had, but we've got loads of other athletes here, and they might have the reasons for not going. But OSG is the pinnacle for me, and the Britain's Strongest Man and Woman, such a prestigious title. I've won it 3 times, and it's one of my proudest achievements. So to see such a because there's people that won the females and they never go. The girls that do the Irish show, they never go to Worlds, they never go to Europes, they never go to Brits, and I don't know why. And the same with some of the lads. I know Gavin had a lot of work on. Gavin McNamee, he's been around the world. But it would have been great to see someone like Kyle Scott or some other big names. Like I know Thomas Kelly. I actually spoke to Thomas. Thomas decided to do Openweight Ireland's instead. And I was like, I think you're mental. Rather than to go and compete at under 90 official strongman, Britain's Strongest Man, Thomas would have been in the podium this weekend, 100%. I know Thomas has got his invites to the Europes and Worlds anyway, but I don't know. I think as a weight class athlete, and I agree, I suppose I'm the best person to say about it, because I progress, and Gavin McNamee, we progress through the weight class while side quest and open weight stuff. I think if you're a good weight class athlete, you should exhaust all avenues within the weight class and prioritise that. That's my opinion. Anyway, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a personal choice. That's what I think. Yeah. I think if he feels that it's not a direction that they want to go in, then and something else suits them better, or feels that it suits them better, or it's on the home turf, and they want to present them. I think it's just a personal choice. It's like, what show do you choose next? We've all got our opinions, and like you, I'm very biased towards obviously Renegade, official Strongman and Giants Live, but I have no disrespect for any other show that runs. I really enjoy watching all of them run and seeing how people have done. Absolutely, of course I do. At the end of the day, at the essence, I'm a Strongman fan. You know what I mean? That's what it boils down to.
I think part of me just seeing, because Thomas trains in my gym occasionally, and I think just when you see someone compete, then you could have been a British champ this weekend, or you could have placed top 3. I think it's. Not speaking poorly of him, Ireland's that he done great, but I don't know. If in my opinion, anyway, I think the most success, and I can speak from experience, and Gavin McNamee were the same. You'll get much more out of progressing through the weight class sport, because that's how me and Gavin built such big profiles in the sport. So that, for example, when I went to Giants Live this year, most other people that do their first Giants Live are somewhat unknown. But if you've dominated a weight class scene and you've created a profile,
you were definitely known.
Once you move up, then you already have fans or people that follow you or whatever. So it's if you want to monetize things and get sponsors, or whatever, I think it's the better move anyway.
Yeah, well, I think one thing that official Strongman tries to do, and we are obviously trying to do at all levels, is try to be more proactive with regards to social media and things like that. And I think, when you look at some of the things like, you passing out on the barbell and stuff like that, that happened, that opportunity happening at that given moment on camera the way it was, and then going viral online. You said yourself, you had to turn your phone off. It was just absolutely bananas. And little opportunities like that only happen if you're in the right place at the right time. So you've kind of got to make those happen by being in the right place at the right time. But for some people, especially perhaps in Ireland, they think of the TV show, and it is a big deal. Everybody in Ireland's going to watch that, and I get that. I mean, brilliant, absolutely fantastic. But if you get onto the official Strongman radar, the whole world's going to see it. You know what I mean? So, and the whole world that's actually invested and interested in Strongman.
Right. Sorry, we forgot someone. How did I forget? Lee Kelly, Thomas's brother.
Oh, Lee.
Lee was there under 80, and I know. I spoke out of turn, but I put the blah on Lee. Lee came out the deadlift, and I was like, Lee will do fucking 10 reps. But I forgot outside the sport. As we talked about in the live stream, as a top level athlete, people that compete at a top level still have lives outside the sport. So when you have a bad performance, it's easy to forget that. But I think Lee and his missus are trying for a baby, and there's some things going on outside the sport that sort of restricted him. So he didn't give the performance that I know he's capable of. But he still held his own and done really well. Lee's one of my favourite Irish athletes. He really is.
Me too.
He's great.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. I love watching him.
Yeah, his deadlifts. It's just fucking. And Thomas as well. They're both. And I think that's why, if Thomas, you're listening to this, I'm not trying to speak poorly of you. There's a passion inside me that Dave has passed down when I see someone with potential. This is about Rory. This is about look. I've got an eye for people that'll do well. So I can just see Thomas being one of the best weight class athletes Ireland's ever going to have. So that's where I'm coming from with that.
Mm. Well, who knows what the future holds for those guys? But what you've got to remember in this game is, and look at me with my old grey beard and stuff like that. You'll be amazed how fast time passes you by, and these opportunities don't stay around forever. If there's an opportunity in front of you and you have the opportunity to do something with it, have a good think about it before you turn it down. Yeah.
Just do what I do. Just do them all. Do all the shows. Just do it all. Just do it all. I think overall, though, the weekend just passed, I know me and a lot of other people within the sport were disappointed with the overall show out and the standard. Standard had dropped a lot this year compared to last year across the weight class scene. I don't know I don't know why that is, but I don't know why the tournament was so poor. I don't know if it's because it's at an expo. I don't think the promoters can do anything better in that standpoint. For me anyway, I think the Fisher Strongman Britons is just prestigious. I just can't understand why people, especially this year where there's such a gap between the rest of the shows.
Yeah, well, it looked, watching that I was glued to the live stream. I couldn't make it across, and I was glued to the live stream, and it was very well presented. You did a great job, actually, of hosting it with Nicola, and so did Ben Glasscock. Really, really good, really informative. Knew the athletes. It was great, and then to watch, it was great too. The way they had the camera work done and everything. It was a well presented event, especially when it's done at an expo. I thought they did really well managing all the background noise. To be fair, really did.
What a great day, but I think, and that's where I suppose anybody within Ireland, or anywhere over the years, my first Britain Strongest Man was in a car park and just beside London, and then it was in some fields. The fact there are now arenas, I think for me personally, anyway, I get so frustrated when I see Irish athletes here, because there's been Irish athletes before that I'll not name anybody, they've done well in Ireland, and London's asked for recommendations, and they've got passes to West, and they haven't went. But the same people will be the first people to come on elsewhere and say there's no opportunities, there's lack of opportunities. But then when they get the opportunities, because the Fisher Strongman, Ireland's strongest woman was ran, and there's opportunities there presented to the winners. They weren't gifted them, they earned them. But then to not take the invites, then I think from a promoter and an athlete standpoint, I just struggle to understand why you wouldn't want to go.
Yeah, well, like I say, not everybody shares your, passion, drive, and motivation for strongman. And also, the girls and boys that are doing this sport, they're normal, hardworking people. And going over to even England, to Europe, certainly to America or something like that, it's a very big ask. It's very expensive. It's a lot of money. That rave's very big.
You do see it a lot in the powerlifting world as well, and I sort of get the same frustration. A lot of the powerlifters talk about, all they really talk about is getting an invitation for the Commonwealth, like an invitation to go to the Commonwealth. which is more of like a team, trip to the Commonwealth type of thing. Whereas qualifying to go and compete in the British, like that's fucking hard earned. Like if you're able to turn around and say you're a British powerlifter, you fucking earned it. If you're able to say you're a British powerlifting champion, you're 100% one of the best powerlifters in Britain. Like, the Commonwealth. I'm not dissing the Commonwealth, but whenever I was involved training athletes before in the Commonwealth, there was first picks, second picks, third picks, fourth picks, and then it was sort of like there was people getting picked to go, and it was like. But it was obviously filling numbers, do you know what I mean? To a certain extent, like obviously they want the best to go initially, but then towards the end it was just filling numbers. I just think there was so much more, like, president or whatever you want to call it, by saying, I'm going to the British Powerlifting Championships, and if you win, to say you're a British champion. But obviously, people feel that, like, maybe a lot of it is not having the belief in themselves that they're good enough to go over. Ego gets in the way, or what, I don't know. Like, maybe they don't believe, like, because you know how fucking competitive, Matthew, like the 90s and 105s is. Like when you get to the stage of fighting for top 5, like those are top 5 fucking pound for pound, like fighting for every point. Like it's probably almost more competitive than what fucking open weight is in many competitions. And I maybe people just believe that they'll go over there and like, I'm not as good as I am yet, or I'm not going to get podium and all. But there's only one way you fucking find that, and that's by going and doing it.
I suppose like Dave's just putting emphasis bit, but I think I'm guilty of having the mindset of I am so obsessed with strongman. I love it so much. And no bias towards official strongman, but for me, this is a matter of fact. That's that. The official strongman is strongman. Like if you could be a champion of wherever, see, until you've got an official strongman title, you don't have a title, in my opinion. There's other good federations out there, but for me, that is strongman. So I think the passion in me and the want to be the best in the world or the best in the country. I just maybe I'm guilty of looking at others and being like, why don't you feel the same way?
Well, I would sort of agree with that from the other end of the spectrum, of being a guy that never got an official strongman trophy.
Yeah.
And when you fucking retire, put the boots up, you look back and still proud of everything that I won and everything that I'm achieved. But yeah, it would have been a fucking nice. It would have just been a confirmed statement. Do you know what I mean? If you ever won your Ireland's, Dave, you were the strongest motherfucker in Ireland that year. End of. There's no argument about it. There's no easy year. There's fuck all like that there, because you do know, even though in previous years the numbers haven't been what they potentially are this year, you know what I mean? But you do know that the top dogs is there, because the top dogs want to get the Britain's Strongest Man. So if you go and you compete in that, you are definitely, and you win it, you definitely are our strongest man. Like.
Yeah, but I do think as well, and you're exactly right in what you say there. And but the standard, probably overall, without some of the freaks that we've had turn up along the way, has never been higher. So if when you've got something to compare yourself, if I was a 105 up and coming competitor, and I want to compare myself to somebody, of course I'm going to compare myself with Matthew. What's he doing? How far up? Because he's as good as it gets. It gets, he's not won everything, but he nearly has, and he's in the mix every time. So he's right up there. And the same with Gav. And the same with, Kyle Scott's knocked on the door at all of those things as well. You know what I mean? There's some phenomenal stuff. And so from the weighted categories, and I've only mentioned a few there, and I'm sorry if any for the names I've missed out, but we can't go on all night. But the weight category athletes have done phenomenal in strongman, in official strongman. Really, really, really well. And that speaks volumes to me of the standard here. You know what I mean? We just need to keep more coming up the food chain.
And they all done their first comp at Renegade, Dave?
Well, not all of them, but most the best ones did.
Yeah. And I think even outside the weight class scene, though, I think this is the last thing we'll touch on. If we look at the potential lineup this year for Ireland's Opens, like you've Rory defending champ, me second, Sean, Killian, Gavin McNamee, Daniel McElroy, the two Doyle brothers. Who else is there that I'm forgetting about here? Gare. There's the standard in Ireland at the minute is if everybody shows up fuck me, you could pick 6 or 7 different winners. It's insane.
100%, especially with the events we've got. And the six of them, it's going to be a mix-up. I don't think it's going to be a one-horse race at all.
Nah, no way.
But there are also 6 of it. Like we initially said the events, and then I went away and looked at the events, and I actually said something. This is going to be standard-wise, stack-wise, the biggest Ireland's ever, but competition-wise, the fucking hardest Ireland's ever. Because them 6 events, none of them are forgiven.
No, it's hard.
There's nothing's forgiven there. Yeah. What you could say is the most unforgiven one, which is not a forgiven fucking event, is the dumbbell press. And everything else is going to ruin you. But even the dumbbell press for reps is a fucking gasser. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's not an easy event at all. Like, but looking at all the other events that's going on in there as well, like you're going to have some set of fucking legs on you, but to be strong and to be incredibly conditioned to win that competition.
I've already booked the ambulance and told him to bring 2 extra oxygen containers.
I think they fucking could need it.
Yeah, but I'm always thinking when I was going through those events, I scratched my head a lot. I do not know what's going to be in Britain's Strongest Man. Certainly Darren won't even know at this stage what's going to be in Britain's Strongest Man. He may have an idea or an inspired thing for something new. I do not know. But I'm trying to make sure that we cover the basics. So whoever dominates that competition, whoever walks away with our brand new Power Wire trophy, is going to be the best chance that we have at this moment in time to do some damage at the Brits. That's got to be the goal. You know what I mean? It's all right getting people there, but you want to get somebody there that's really going to mix it up a bit. And we're more than capable of doing that. You know what I mean? We just need to
prove that with Pa came second, and Sean Gillen. Sean Gillen, the 2 times he went, put in good performances, and Rory did great as well. He really did. Yeah. He did brilliant. So
and you only have to look at the lineup of Britain's Strongest Man now to see how incredibly tough it is. And even athletes that maybe haven't, finaled at World's Strongest Man that are there, the damage that they can do in some events is shocking. You know what I mean?
Well, that's what we talked about this year at Britain's when I was there. You could have the top 6 there that could be the best in the world, like the Stoltmans. You've got Paddy, Ben, fucking Lagar. You have so many freak shows. I still think to this day the UK has the best athletes in the world. On average, in totality, the Americans have some superstars. Canada with Mitchell Cooper, and Ukraine, but as a whole, I think UK always sets
you look
standards.
at, I mean, somebody who's I think been overlooked a bit in his performance at World's Strongest Man, Andy Flynn. Unbelievable, unbelievable. That young man is a phenomenon, and he was one of my favourites to watch at World's Strongest Man. I really enjoyed it. My only regret was I didn't get my picture taken with him because I kind of had him. I was leaving him alone a little bit. I want you to do well. I want you to get through. I thought he was going to surprise a few people.
See the fact there's a name now in the UK that you can not forget about, but in a conversation, forget about a name. The fact there's so many people now that standard is fucking insane, isn't it?
Yeah. But, and I saw sort of Andy Flynn got his first little kind of big show window because he got a bit of a wild card invite. I can't remember how he got it. He ended up at the Royal Albert Hall.
Last minute or something.
And without a doubt, he was kind of the underdog. Had all these global names coming from all over the place, and then Andy Flynn from up the road. You know what I mean? But you see, by the end of that night, you heard the crowd. You were there. The crowd were all Andy, all over him. They absolutely loved him. He was great. It was fantastic.
I think that was. I've been to a lot of giant shows now, and I've been back over on the 4th of July for that one. But the Royal Albert Hall show was. If you're watching this, guys, and you haven't been to Giants live show and you want to go to one, fuck me, that's the one to go to.
Yeah. But buy your tickets now for next year because it's sold out. It sold out 6 months ago. It nearly sells out. Darren announces that, or Colin does, that the ticket sales go on sale for that the day after the show, and they do a massive because it's so. You've seen what it's like. I mean, it's just electric in that place, isn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing. The year I was there, I've seen Iron Bubby break that Axel world record.
Yeah.
And then last year, I got to see Thor do the 5:05 or 5:10 live, which was probably the
Birmingham, wasn't it? Yeah.
Probably the biggest feat of strength of it. Couldn't just stood up. It's fucking insane. Yeah. I was like, oh my god! I
had the video on my phone. I was stood right at the side, and it was just it was like a warm up rep, wasn't it?
Unbelievable. I think that's all we have for tonight, folks.
Yeah.
As far as I know,
we didn't talk about any controversy at the.
Yes, I forgot about that. We had you can share your opinions on this, lads. I share my opinion on this on social media, and I'll share it again now. You get this all the time. Well, not all the time, but there's always somebody that had a poor referee decision, or whether they think it's poor or whether it was or not. And there's a bit of debate. Did you see the debate over the stone to shoulder? Did you lads see that?
Yeah.
What's your take on it?
Well, obviously, I referee at the highest level. You know what I mean, and I am put under extreme pressure sometimes, as is Magnus, as is Darren. But what I will say is, to all the athletes, know that there is always an appeals process.
Yeah.
Okay, so and as a referee, do I always get it 1,000,000% right? No. You know what I mean? If I've made a mistake before, possibly, you know what I mean? But these things are there to be appealed, you know what I mean? We are not relying on, because sometimes Darren said to me, who got that? And I'll give you an example. Reno and Hooper in the end of the yoke race at World's Strongest Man this year. And there was some smart asses online saying that, that the other person won, or this person won, or that person won. But this could never be timed by plastic stopwatches and all this sort of stuff. Well, I'll tell you what, it was timed by plastic stopwatches, but it was always also filmed by about 20 different cameras in 20 different angles. So when we have an issue like that, even though we were absolutely correct on the timekeepers, just for once, but we were 100% right. We checked it. Darren went in there. He videoed it. It was played back in slow-mo through the whole race with the camera on the line, and you can see clearly who the winner was. And that happened on more than one occasion. Mitchell Hooper regularly gets stuff checked. He never ever makes it. If it doesn't go his way, he doesn't make a fuss. He just goes, "Yeah, that's okay. Thanks for checking." He doesn't even want to see the video. He believes it. He knows. He just wants to be sure. And I just think that's a professional's athlete's right, because we're only human. We don't get everything right, and sometimes stuff's as clear as day. It's easy. A lot of the time, some of the time, it's really hard, and those are the decisions that everybody wants my job until there's a hard decision to make, and you've got to go and face up to one of these giants and tell them that you're not giving them a rep for whatever reason. But you have to be able to justify that. But they have the right to appeal, and the appeal goes through the process.
I watched it. I was there, obviously, and when I was commentating, I had asked the question, did Emily get that rep? Because, see, in fairness, that battle that weekend in the 64s and the 80 men they were the two highlights for me. They were, and then Donna and Nicola and Bennett. They were the battles that I seen at the weekend. Were I was an age, and I was my fucking element. I loved it. I could commentate full time in Strongman, but I did say to Nicola, did she get that rep? Because Emily and Shannon are two. They're both amazing. No, I've slowed this down 50 fucking times now. And the rules stipulate, some people, because I know Ultimates, Glenn requires you to have this bicep up, which I don't agree with. But I do think an arm needs to be here. But in the unbreakable rules, the weekend, as far as I know, always stated, one hand needs to be on the stone, other hand off. And Emily, fair play to her, had the best technique I'd ever seen, stone to shoulder. Here to here, hand off, other hand here, straight down, back. Stuart was blowing his whistle. And when the whistle started blowing, her hands were here. By the time the whistle had stopped, her hand was off. It was a very touch-and-go decision. Whether there's split opinions, I think the biggest takeaway here for me, in my opinion, is, as you've just said with Mitchell Hooper, no complaining. I think Shannon Smith, to be a former world champion, a reputable coach and a reputable athlete, you have to conduct yourself in a certain way as an ambassador of the sport, especially on social media. And I think with the female scene being so amazing recently, a lot of females will complain sometimes about the lack of support they get. And then when you've got people like that and other people who will not talk about, who don't conduct themselves in a professional manner, it ends up shedding a bad light on the sport in that sense. So I think no matter what the decision you get, because I was the same at Worlds, Dave. You weren't even there last year, but there's a controversial call over the log between me and Brandon. And Brandon essentially ended up popping me to the podium. I didn't cry about it. I didn't post on social media about it. Kate Connolly at the weekend had a very controversial stoppage in the yoke. The yoke, was it over the line? Was it not? But again, she brushed it off, went about her day, took her third place trophy, and went home. And as you say, you can appeal it, but I think taking the social media, especially in the manner which it was done on the weekend, it was bad form.
Yeah. Well, I think you should, you saying Stuart Murray refereed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you look at the standard of the show, the level of the show, and Stuart Murray, you know, he's like the godfather of fucking strongman in this country. Like, you know what I mean? And
he's my first choice to referee my shows, as you know. I always have it. But
Shirt probably referees, and this is probably keeping the number on, you know, safe. He probably referees over 40 shows a fucking year. Like, he goes to shows all around the fucking globe and helps out referees. You know, he's an incredible knowledgeable referee, but it's not even just that. Like, as you say, Dave, everybody can make mistakes, but like the level of the show, the standard of the show, you know, the show's ticking all the boxes here. The organisers are ticking all the boxes to say, well, we've done X, we've done Y, we've done Z. You know, we've set this up in the best, most professional way possible to make sure that there isn't any fucking mistakes. And then you just had to fucking take it on the fucking chin. Like,
you do. Know what I mean? I think my point was, I wasn't suggesting that mistakes were made. What I'm saying is that if there was a mistake and it was flagged up, what you do about that mistake is the correction, and that's what this is all about. If there is a mistake made, then you correct it. And
it was watched back numerous times by the team there. So for an athlete to come on then and say that they felt hard done by, they're almost accusing Shirt and Unbreakable of being a liar, which is poor form, especially from someone who's a coach or an athlete or whatever. It shouldn't happen.
You know, when you've Eddie, you've Stuart, and you've also Ben Joyce there. And Ben Joyce, you know, he's he's the guy that gets seen the least, that does the most. You know what I mean? He's 100 miles an hour and he's all over everything. So those guys.
And a lot of the comments were negative about Strongman in terms of this happens. It's only in Strongman this happens with refereeing, which is total bullshit. You can see every weekend the UFC, there's someone that gets stopped early. The football every weekend, the VAR is a fucking disaster, and that's multi-million, billion pounds. So see, no matter what sport you're in, there's always going to be something at some point. And it's happened. I remember speaking to Terry, but it's at the weekend. Terry gave me a no rep on a fucking 60-kilo dumbbell, a UK strongest man. It happens. With all the good and bad decisions, I think how you conduct yourself after it speaks volumes.
Of course.
And it doesn't do you any favours as well. Like, sometimes you need to swallow that there and be like, look, this isn't going to get me any favours getting invites and you know, to competitions and all if I get on like this here.
And at the end of the day, seeing your trophy, if you've came second, it doesn't say second in brackets, but I was robbed. Just say second. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But we've all been robbed, haven't we? I mean, I'm going to tell you stories when I was robbed, you know what I mean? Terrible referees and stuff like that. No, but, you know, I do sympathise with anybody that, you know, feels hard done by to a degree, but how you conduct yourself afterwards is absolutely, you know, the key. You know, at the end of the day, you know, I've said it before, we're not a massive sport. When you're at an expo like that, you're wearing Strongman, you know, on your sleeve. You know, everybody can see who you are and what you're doing, and you're supposed to be at the pinnacle there, you know, the best in Britain. And I think, you know, anybody look, you mentioned somebody, the wife and kids looking over saying, oh, look, there's some Strongman over here, and seeing all that debacle going on. It doesn't create a great image for us, does it?
No,
definitely not.
You know, at the end of the day, you know, positivity.
On that bombshell, that is us, guys. Thanks for listening. Keep an eye out for next week's podcast. We'll have another special guest on very soon. And more talking points to talk about, more information to share about our upcoming shows. Please follow us, please like, please subscribe, please share anything. And again, as Dave said, any feedback is welcome on the comps, how we're running them, what you think could be done better. Even the podcast, if there's anybody, because look, guys, we're just winging this. We've got about 53 subscribers. So if you can give us any advice, we're all ears.
Yeah, any topics you'd like us to discuss or anything like that, fire them into us, and we'll do our best to make sense of whatever you'd like us to try and talk about.
I always put a Q&A up, but in terms of social media, I'm sure the two lads won't mind me saying this. Feel free to send any questions in during the week. You're probably most likely to get a response from me because the other two aren't on their phone as much as me with social media. So any questions, send them onto the page and we'll answer them and we'll answer the questions. But any feedback or questions are welcome.
If you want some common sense, come to me.
Dave still uses his phone like this, just with a finger.
With the glasses down there.
It's all right. Yeah, still use this boy. You know what's out.
Right, guys. Thank you. See you later.
All right, guys. Thanks very much.
Take care. Thank you.